Before we begin, I want to take a moment to congratulate our new full committee chairman, Chairman Tom Cole. He is a tremendous leader and cares deeply about the issues in the State Foreign Operations Bill. We could not be in, the full committee could not be in better hands. I'm also extremely pleased to welcome our newest subcommittee member, I know the other subcommittees meet at the same time, Mr. Juan Ciscomani from Arizona. I actually pleaded and begged and scratched and pulled to try to get him on this subcommittee. He's going to be a great addition to this subcommittee. And so again, I'm thrilled to work with Juan Ciscomani on this subcommittee. Minister of Power, again, welcome back. Thank you for being here. We're pleased to have you with us this afternoon for the subcommittee's first budget hearing of the year. I want to start by thanking you and also the men and women of USAID for the hard work and service to our country. We do not take that for granted. These are difficult times, and their commitment, the folks that work with you to duty, is noted and greatly appreciated by this committee, by every member of this committee. The fiscal year 2025 budget request for the U.S. Agency for International Development represents a slight increase from the FY24 enacted levels for the USAID managed accounts. The recently enacted fiscal year 24 State Foreign Operations Bill, I think, takes an important step towards right-sizing the foreign assistance budget in the wake of reckless spending of the last number of years. I encourage this administration, and frankly, the many advocates working in this space, to think and change the narrative. Now, the question should no longer be how much money can we get, but how do we utilize the resources that we do have more strategically and more effectively. For example, Madam Administrator, when you evaluate your programs, I obviously assume that you don't just determine whether they are working based on how much funding goes out the door. Instead, I guess, or at least obviously I would hope, that you look at whether the investments change things for the better and meet the goals and the objectives that have been established, that have been set. And likewise, we can't simply discuss the growing needs globally and expect to meet those challenges based solely on the amount of dollars provided for the response. I am committed, working with you, to define the strategic priorities and create solutions to make our aid more effective. I think anything less is a disservice to the American taxpayer, to our own national security interests, and those that we're actually trying to help. It's also well past time for our partners and our allies to step up. The United States cannot continue to carry an outsized share of donor funding for global challenges. So today I'm interested in hearing about what the administration is doing to plan strategically with traditional and non-traditional donors to meet critical needs around the world. In light of all this, I will reiterate what I said at your hearing last year, Administrator. We need to get back to basics, to what we know that works. Because funding and promoting polarizing and politically charged programs will frankly only mean additional cuts to the state foreign operations top line in future years. That's just a statement of fact. Those kind of things jeopardize support from Congress, from the American public, and notably even from our foreign partners, especially when funding is tight. So instead, proven investments in areas with broad bipartisan support is where I think you should focus on making important advances for global development. And so as important as to the what is the who. I support your efforts to find local solutions through local partners and also your efforts to increase private sector engagement. I am, however, concerned by the heavy reliance on the United Nations in carrying out USAID programs. Many UN organizations have shown their true stripes since the horrific attacks by Hamas on Israel 6 months ago. For decades, they turned a blind eye and actually, frankly, enabled Hamas to turn hospitals into dens of terror, brainwashed kids to hate Jews, and used innocent civilians as human shields in their war against Israel. But then, when Israel responded to October 7th, that deep-seated anti-Semitism at the UN was unfortunately on display for the entire world to see. Almost every single UN leader, with the exception of the executive director of the WFP, has spread disinformation attacking Israel, including messages originating from Hamas. The UN humanitarian coordinator thinks Hamas, and has said so, with Hamas's gruesome and inhumane track record is merely a political movement. UNICEF and the World Health Organization continue their blood libel while saying Israel is targeting hospitals and aid workers. Thankfully, the fiscal year 24 appropriation bills prohibits funds to UNRWA, a first step in making it a thing of the past. The bill also requires analysis and reporting from every UN and international organization funded in the bill on addressing the rampant anti-Israel bias and anti-Semitism. And here's the sad part. Well, another of the sad parts. There are so many qualified organizations to partner around the world with, from small local organizations, faith-based groups, to large international non-governmental organizations. So the notion that the UN organizations are uniquely qualified is frankly just not true. It's a farce. And I really hope that you will work to expand your partner base in all sectors and regions. I have many topics to address. We do have many topics to address, and I will in my questions, but I want to leave plenty of time. In closing, let me once again thank you. Thank you for being here today to testify on the administration's fiscal year 25 budget request for USAID. I also want to thank you for always being accessible to me.